Morning, folks. Thanks for joining us for Drew Allar's Zoom call this morning. As always, if you guys would use the raise hand function on Zoom, we can get the questions from the room. Go ahead, John Sauber, start us off.
Hey Drew, how's it going?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. From watching Oregon so far, what stood out to you about their defense? And is there any defense you guys have played that they remind you of?
I mean, structurally, there's a couple defenses that, they're similar to. Obviously, every team's a little bit different in terms of like what coverages like they like to run most of the game. But as far as what stood out to me on film, I think it's just their overall team speed on defense. I think they're probably the fastest defense we've played yet in terms of just team speed overall. And they do a really good job up on their front seven's really physical. Their D line and their linebackers are really good. They're not just fast, they're also physical too. So it's good. They're a really good combination up front, and then on the back end, they make a lot of plays, contest a lot of catches or just passes in general. So it's going to be a challenge, and obviously, schematically, they're really sound in what they do. Obviously, I know what they've done this year in terms of like defense statistically, and I have a lot of respect for all of them as players and their whole coaching staff, really. So it's going to be a fun challenge for us this weekend.
Rich Scarcella.
Morning, Drew. Thanks for your time. To follow up on John's question, what specifically do you see from their defensive line? What impresses you most about them?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's their size. Their size is they're really big up front in terms of like height and weight, but they're also like you wouldn't expect them to move how they do move up front. The two DNs are really disruptive. They do a lot of good things, and not only the pass game, but the run game as well. And then their two interior guys. Number 90 is a bigger guy, but gets off the ball really well. They kind of move him in and out too, so that's a little bit different than what we've seen. And then number 55 as well. So like really their starting four up front is a really talented group. And they're really disruptive in both the run and pass game. So, we're going to need to do a really good job up front this week. And I know our O-line is up for the challenge and they're preparing right now for it. So it's going to be a fun matchup ahead of us.
Audrey Snyder.
Hey Drew, appreciate your time. A little bit different note here, but when you're on the sideline and you're able to kind of watch a guy like Abdul Carter and see him in practice, what are maybe some of the most impressive things that you've seen Abdul do, whether in game practice, behind the scenes, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I get more of it in practice. I guess the feel of it, just because of just the nature of the positions we both play. And it's always really fun. Honestly, it's really beneficial for me to go against a guy like Abdul and our O line to go against our D line in general. But specifically talking about Abdul, like I think it's just his get off and his athleticism, because you don't see any really many DNs have the type of explosiveness he has off the ball, and how twitchy he is in open space, and it's really impressive to go against him, and he makes me better in the pocket just with I can't be drifting or I can't be setting up our O lineman to be in a bad position. So he definitely prepared me for this whole year in general when we were going against each other in spring and fall camp, and same with the rest of the D line. But it's really fun watching that group when we do get up in the game, just pin their ears back and rush the quarterback, just because obviously I know how it feels in practice, but it's fun to see that being paid off in a game.
Greg Pickle.
Drew, you mentioned their speed on defense. What do you guys have to do to account for that on Saturday that you've maybe done earlier in this year against teams that maybe aren't quite as fast as them, but in a similar ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really anything different that we need to do. It's more of just being aware of it. Like they just specifically talking, it probably applies to more up front than it does at really any position, because every team we go against, at least on the back end, is pretty fast just with the type of schedule we play. But up front, like we're just going to need to be aware of like their linebackers. Their linebackers are obviously really physical, but they can run sideline to sideline, so that they're going to need to do a good job of just double teaming and trying to get up to the linebackers and just working those different block combinations throughout the week. So it probably applies more to like just our run game in general. And then for me in the pass game, just really like knowing that they're athletic and they can just cut on the ball, and making sure I'm just putting the ball in a good position where it's going to be our receivers and allowing our receivers to, have a run after catch with just the ball placement, not throwing a ball behind them and having them be slowing down their momentum, and then DB catches up to them. Just making sure I'm doing everything I can to put our receivers in the best position as possible to, make something after the catch happen.
Daniel Gallen.
Appreciate your time this morning, Drew. When you talk about going against Abdul in defense, overall, how do you feel like going against this defense in practice this year has prepared you for what you're going to see on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always talk about the motto of iron sharpens iron, and I think we take that to heart. And I think just going against one of the best defenses in the country every day, from spring to throughout the fall, is just really good for both sides of the ball. Just to make each other better. There's not a drop off on either side of the ball, so we're making each other better every day, and I think that has played a huge role into our success this year, just because we got great looks throughout fall camp from each other, just because of the things we do offensively is challenging, and schematically, and obviously the talent we have on the offensive side of the ball, but then also what our defense does schematically, and with the type of players they have makes it really challenging for offenses. So I think we did a really good job of just competing with each other, in a healthy sort of competition, and it's really paid off throughout the year for us.
Seth Engel.
Drew, we talked to Julian last night, and he has some experience in the Big Ten championship. Have you been able to talk to him at all? Has he given you any tips about a game like this? And if so, what are they?
I mean, I talked to him a little bit about his experience there, and it was more of just Lucas Oil in general. I've been to Lucas Oil 2 or 3 times, obviously for different reasons, but just kind of talking to him about what the experience is like, but not really anything specifically. I mean, for us, we always go with like our process is the process, no matter who we're playing or where we're playing. We got to stick to our routine and find ways to get better throughout the week, and we find our process both individually and as a team. So, I think that's just our main focus right now as a team, just because, we've done that throughout the first 12 weeks of the regular season, and there's no point in really switching that right now.
Johnny McGonigal.
Hey, Drew, looking at your left side of the offensive line, Drew Shelton and Venga, how important has that partnership been between those two to what you guys have been able to do on offense this year?
Yeah, I mean, those two guys specifically have played a huge role up front, in both the run and pass game. And obviously, I have a really good relationship with both of them. I lived with them last year together, so we're all really close. And just I think their connection up front really helps. Just with their trust and communication, in terms of like passing off twist, and in the run game block combinations. And I would really go to say like that's like similar or pretty much the same for all 5 guys up front, no matter who's playing. That group is really close and tight knit, and I think that's shown up a couple different times throughout the year with how physical they've been playing. And I think Drew and Vanga do a great job of just being leaders in that room, along with Doc, and just driving that room to bring along the young guys in that room, be role models for them, but also preparing for their on-field success that they've done a great job of throughout this year to this point. So it's fun, seeing those guys, just with how hard they work throughout the whole off season and in season have the success they're having. And I know they're excited for the opportunity they have this weekend as well.
Shane Thomas.
Thanks for your time this morning, Drew. Looking at the team, how would you describe kind of the feel around the team, kind of heading into this game? Like, would you say you're trying to find that balance kind of between being loose versus being focused? How do you guys kind of go about that, and how have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really been any different from what we've done the regular season so far. At least that's the feel I have. I think overall we're a really focused team just by nature and how we're all wired and how the coaching staff is wired. But I also think that's a really good thing to have, just because we're super focused throughout the week, but then when it's time to go to the game and play the game, I think we play loose and free just more naturally, just because of how focused we were throughout the week, and we know that we've done everything necessary to prepare for that game and that opportunity that we have. And I think that just allows us to go out and play fast and play loose. So I think they kind of go hand in hand, but I think we're at least talking about practice specifically, like we're a really focused team and detail oriented in practice, and we try to make practice as hard, if not harder, than the game, and just so we're that much more prepared for when the game is going.
Tyler Donahue.
Hey Drew, hope you're doing well. Thank you for the time. James told us on Sunday that Harrison Wallace is, they're going to be monitoring his situation in terms of his availability. If for whatever reason Harrison was not able to go, what's your confidence level in this receiver room to get the job done with you in the passing attack against Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, I know I've said it a lot over this year. I have a ton of faith in those guys, and the work they've put in, not only throughout this season in general, but since spring ball and winter. I have a really good connection with all those guys in that room, and they put in countless hours of work, and a lot of work that not a lot of other guys around the program or outsiders see them put in. Like they put in the extra hours in the film room, in the training room, getting their body right, and then also on the jugs machine, just getting extra reps and catches whenever they can. So I have ton of faith in those guys. I know they're going to be super well prepared, just from what Coach Hagens does in that room in terms of preparing them for the game plan and both the run and pass game. But I think they'll have a lot of success no matter who's out on the field on Saturday. Just with the nature that they're wired, like they'll be ready for their opportunities, and I have full confidence that whoever's opportunity is on Saturday, whenever they get the ball thrown to them, they'll make the plays happen that we need to make.
All right, we got time for three more questions for Drew, Rich Scarcella, Audrey Snyder, then John Sauber. Go ahead, Rich.
Drew, you mentioned you've been at Lucas Oil for a couple things. What were you there for? And secondly, growing up in Ohio, how often did you watch the Big Ten title game? Was it something that you made sure that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, as far as watching the Big Ten championship, I don't know when's the last time I haven't watched the Big Ten championship, to be honest, and that kind of goes for like all the conference championships. I don't know if you guys know, but I just love watching football, so it kind of plays into that. And whenever I can watch football, I'm usually watching it. And then I've actually been to the Lucas Oil a couple times for a couple of the Big Ten championships in the past when I was growing up. So, that was kind of cool. And obviously it'd be my first time on the field and playing in it.
If I could follow it up, what games did you see as championship game?
The last one I saw was Ohio State and Michigan State. I don't know what year it was, but I was probably in like grade school when it happened.
Audrey Snyder.
Drew, kind of staying on Lucas Oil, are there anything, or is there anything that you like about playing indoors? Obviously, last year you guys were at Ford Field. Is there anything different or anything that you think maybe is beneficial in that kind of setting?
Uh, I mean, I don't know for me personally. Honestly, like it's really cool to be able to play in these different stadiums. Obviously, we played in Ford Field last year. That was a really cool experience. And same with Mercedes-Benz. That was a really cool field. And honestly, like I've heard nothing but great things about Lucas Oil in general, just the field condition and just the stadium in general. I think the one thing that is a little different from just outdoor stadiums is probably just the lighting in general, and that kind of doesn't really affect me. It's probably more of the receivers just getting used to it pregame. But I don't think it's a huge deal for them. They'll be used to it by kickoff. That's the only thing that I've heard that's a little bit different from going to outdoor to indoor stadiums. Other than that, I think it's just a really cool environment that we're going to be in. I know it's going to be, a fully packed house from both teams traveling really well. So it'll be a really cool environment just to be in general.
John Sauber, last question.
Drew, Julian mentioned last night that Ethan Grunkmeyer has been really impressive and has a lot of talent. How have you seen him grow in his first year on campus?
Yeah, I think just his maturity and comfort in the offense. I think Gronk has like really. I think it took him a couple weeks to figure out how to balance school and football and how he wanted to prepare for games. But ever since like maybe the first third of the season passed, like he's been on fire in terms of how like his process, how he prepares mentally and physically. And then I don't know if I mentioned it before, but like just we'll have highlights of like practice tapes up throughout the week, and Grunk's showing up a lot just with the throws he's making against, our one defense. And it's really cool to see that, just because I know how hard he's worked, not only since he's been here, but since his high school days. Obviously, we've known each other for a longer time than he's been on campus. So it's really cool just to see his process and how much he's grown. And Grunk, I know I've said it before, he has a bright future ahead of him. I know he's going to keep putting his head down and getting better each day. And it's really cool just to see a young kid like that in our program, just getting better and better throughout the season. And I think it's a kind of a credit to Coach Franklin and how he's developed our program. Like, a lot of the young guys get a lot of reps. Like, it's not only Grunk in that freshman class that's gotten a lot better. Like, you can name a lot of kids in that class that have, really taken their game to the next level, really since the second half of the season started. So that's really cool to see in general.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, folks.